All right, for more, let's now speak to our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who joins us now live. Sherwin, thank you so much for your time. Well, it's been a very interesting, political week, with the drama in the U.S. since that faltering debate performance by President Biden in late June that essentially brought us to this historic moment. How's the news being digested less than 24 hours since we all learned that Joe Biden had made the decision to drop out?
Well, a majority of Americans, particularly within the Democratic Party, Unati, wanted Joe Biden to drop out of this race. Just remove the audio in my ear, please. To drop out of the race, and that has now come to fruition with that historic decision by President Biden to step aside while, of course, he convalesces and recovers from his COVID-19 diagnosis at his home in Rehoboth, Delaware. But remember, we didn't just have the halting debate performance. We also have subsequently since then had the failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We've also had the major Republican convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And now you have this earth-shattering seismic decision by the incumbent president some 3 months from Election Day, having won 14 million plus votes in the Democratic primary, to step aside. And so it's being absorbed by the party, has endorsed Kamala Harris to be the standard bearer for the party. But that process now also has to play out, right? I mean, she has received, since Biden's endorsement, a number of endorsements from within the Democratic Party. But that process necessarily is not a fait accompli. So many unknowns as we move here into uncharted waters. But broad support, I think, within the Democratic Party and American writ large, that Joe Biden at 81, after that faltering and halting debate performance, has now stepped aside.
And it is very interesting, just to look at what everybody is saying. But let's look at Republicans. I mean, have reacted to the news by calling on President Biden to resign his office immediately. I mean, what's the thrust of that argument?
Yeah, let me read you a statement that Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, put out yesterday. He called it an unprecedented juncture in American history. We must be clear that is what has happened here. The Democratic Party has just forced the Democratic nominee off the ballot just over 100 days out from the election, having invalidated, says Mike Johnson, the votes of more than 14 million Americans who selected Joe Biden. He then subsequently says if Joe Biden is not fit to run for the presidency, he is therefore not fit to serve as president. He must resign the office immediately. November 5th cannot arrive soon enough. He was on ABC News's Sunday talk show yesterday talking about the possibility that the various states that run the various primaries in the process that selects a party nominee could challenge this decision by Biden to step aside, the pressure being exerted by Democrats. They could seek to challenge that in the court. So we might see some court challenges here. But let me briefly read you what a statement from the Jamie Harrison is the chairman of the Democratic Party. He says, the work that must be done now, while unprecedented, is clear. In the coming days, the party will undertake a transparent and orderly process to move forward as a united Democratic Party. So essentially, the party must either coalesce around Kamala Harris or whoever the nominee might be, but those delegates that Biden won in the primary process, Unati, must now shift their support to a new candidate, most likely Kamala Harris, who appears to be the front runner right now. But that process needs to come to full fruition for us to know exactly who the nominee will be.
I mean, a lot on Kamala's plate in such a short time, Sherwin. So just talk to us then about what are we likely then to see unfold over the next week or so coming ahead. I mean, Kamala Harris is obviously, as you say, the early front runner to replace Biden at the top of that Democratic ticket. But that's not necessarily a fait accompli, correct? I mean, you earlier pointed to that just a short while ago.
What I can tell you is so far, in terms of elected members of Congress, Unati, 153 members of Congress have already endorsed Kamala Harris. Some 32 United States Democratic senators have endorsed Kamala Harris. Some 10 Democratic governors have endorsed Kamala Harris. And we haven't as yet seen a challenger or a rival that has put their hat in the ring to challenge Kamala Harris for that nomination. That needs to happen very soon. Analysts say within the next 24 hours, given the short time frame we have before the Democratic National Convention in Chicago on August 19th. They don't have time to, quibble about whether they're in or not. Now is the time. And so for now, we only have one candidate that's been endorsed by a majority of members within our party. And that appears now to be Kamala Harris that has the wind at her back. What we have not seen yet are some of the big names within the Democratic Party come out and endorse her. We've heard Hillary Clinton and former President Bill Clinton endorse Kamala Harris, but we haven't heard from Barack Obama. We haven't heard from Hakeem Jeffries, who is the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and we haven't heard from Nancy Pelosi. I think once you get clarity from that kind of leadership peg, we'll get clarity on where this race goes.
I can tell you one thing, Sherwin, this moment is it has at least certainly brought that spark that was so much needed for the Democrats. But we'll be watching and monitoring this very closely. But thank you so much for that update. Sherwin Bryce-Pease there, our correspondent, of course, coming to us live from New York.